Hey folks, Craig Danger, vinyl record player. Ho! You know what? Figured I'd go through the old collection. I spent all of last year basically ragingly creating a massive collection, and now I'm gonna bask. I'm gonna do some basking. Obviously not like the Robins, but I am gonna be doing some basking. So I thought I'd whip out 5 records from 1964, 60-year-old records that you might want to have in your collection. So please, by all means, buckle up. Okay, and we returned. So like I said, I didn't think that I'd be able to do this. I do not have a lot of records from 1964, but I do have some. And, really fantastic records that really, if you're a collector of records, you're not going to have any difficulties getting these records. Or rather, you're not going to have any difficulty once you get them enjoying the absolute hell out of these records. So anyway, let's start off with the top of my book, obviously. How about the Impressions Keep On Pushing from 1964. 60-year-old record right here. 60-year-old record. This one I just picked up last year. Really, from the title track alone, a fantastic record. But of course, I mean, we've got Talking About My Baby, another classic. But, you know, this whole album is really, really good. If I have a downside to this album, it's that it's only 30 minutes. But of course, a little bit of backstory on this album. This would be the second album by the Impressions with this current lineup, which of course features Fred Cash and Sam Gooden. What are they pushing here? They are pushing, in fact, Curtis Mayfield's Jaguar E-Type. So obviously early money for my man Curtis Mayfield here. Pretty fancy car, sir. But again, second LP with this particular lineup of the Impressions, and really a fantastic one on the ABC Paramount label. There's the gentleman on the back. I think this is definitely one of the best LPs of 64. Whether or not, I mean, it happens to be in my collection, but wow, really, really good record. Obviously the title track, I've been trying, Talking About My Baby. Amen is on this big dog too, which, so good. Arrangements on this are by jazz artist Johnny Pate, who basically was the arranger for Curtis Mayfield up into the 70s. He arranged the Superfly soundtrack and a lot of his early 70s work. Fantastic arrangements. So the Impressions keep on pushing. 60-year-old record as of this year, and wow, I was really happy to pick this one up last year. A classic to end all classics. I mean, maybe that might be going a little bit far. If you're in the jazz realm, though, you want to talk classics, I mean, we have to. We have to talk about, of course, A Love Supreme by John Coltrane. Of course, this would be the front and the back. This is, of course, a reissue. It's not an original, but, look at that. There's the man himself. This album, I have to admit, I've had this album either on compact disc or on... now on record. I just bought this last year on record, but I've had it on compact disc for a long time. I have to say, I think my tastes have changed a little bit because I find this LP to be very notey. There's a whole lot of lot going on, a lot of bleeping and blopping. I don't mind the bleeping and blopping, but the bleeping and blopping is not really a danger thing. So this, of course, is one of those seminal works of jazz. Again, I'm not by any means a jazz expert. But I will say that this one belongs alongside your Kind of Blue by Miles Davis, Your Something Else by Cannonball Adderley. A really good album, always worth a pickup. And this is an Impulse, I believe, a re-release probably from about 2018 or something like that. The re-releases are heavily available. I'm not sure that I would go out of bounds and start spending $100, $200, $500 on an original pressing. But this is a good album. Again, very stream of conscious sort of a vibe to it. But again, obviously a classic and kind of seen as his classic. However, I mean, he does a lot of really good stuff. I personally am a bigger fan of, I think, my favorite things are Blue Train, of which I have a copy of Blue Train. I do not have my favorite things, but this is obviously, if you see this one, a definite pickup, and it'll be 60 years this year, 2024, released in December of 1964. So John Coltrane, A Love Supreme, the second of classics that are 60 years old this year. Another one that I've actually just been listening to recently, the second studio LP by Muddy Waters, folk singer, from 1964 as well. This, of course, is a re-release as well, but great sound on this one. This one has been kind of touted as the original Unplugged album, and you know what? It is fantastic. Muddy Waters, of course, more of a electric player, but on this album, just fantastic. They ended up calling it Folk Singer, as a matter of fact, at Chess Records, because folk was big at the time, not because necessarily what he's doing is folk, but wow, it's sort of like an unplugged blues from a man who's usually well plugged in, usually well electrified, the muddiest of the Muddy Waters. This is just a giant classic. I mean, you've got My Home is in the Delta, Cold Weather Blues, Big Leg Woman. I mean, come on. Who doesn't love a big leg woman? I mean, the song. Or, I mean, the lady too. Well, I mean, come on. Feel Like Going Home, Short Dress Woman. Again, I'm not saying that he's the best lyricist who ever lived, but I mean, he keeps it raw. And then, of course, Country Boy. I mean, I think one of his all-time blues classics. Muddy Waters, folk singer from 1964, 60 years old this year. And in terms of original blues albums, this is kind of seen as a seminal work. You can also get, I think, Muddy Waters live at Newport, which is also really excellent. But again, it is a live album. This one, of course, can't say enough about this album, and it sounds fantastic. One of the few blues albums that is kind of seen as an audiophile album. And like I say, there are a lot of represses of this, and I'm not sure that buying an original copy is necessary. It'd probably be quite expensive on the original Chess label, but Muddy Waters, folk singer, that's a great one. How about the debut album from 1964, Otis Redding, Pain in My Heart. Really, really good album. This is Otis at his, obviously he's debuting on this album. A lot of the songs on this were taken from the 1963, 1962 sessions, when basically, story was, Otis basically is just a driver for a gentleman named Johnny Jenkins, who was a leader, guitarist, and leader of a band called the Pine Toppers. Anyway, Johnny has to do some recording. He goes over to Stack Studios, and just so happens there's a little bit of extra time, and Otis Redding, what does he record? Oh, he records These Arms of Mine, and that's pretty much it from there. Obviously, way more tracks on this, Getting Hip. There's some earlier sounds like Shout Bama Lama, Getting Hip. Obviously, early on, he was a huge Little Richard fan, so there is kind of a little taste of that. Fat Gal. Again, I do not know the song Fat Gal all that well, but again, These Arms of Mine. Ooh, that song, by the way, also released, I believe, in 63, 64. That song sold something like 800,000 copies. It was one of Stax's biggest singles at the time. This, of course, wasn't released until 64, but really, really good stuff. In the end, yeah, another really classic album that's turning 60 years old this year. So Otis Redding, Pain in My Heart, his debut album, certainly not the best of his works, but just with the inclusion of These Arms of Mine, which, by the way, a little fun fact about These Arms of Mine, it made an appearance in the Patrick Swayze movie entitled Roadhouse. I just actually saw that the other week. Whoa! I'm not trying to say that one has not aged incredibly well, but it was the 80s, friends. And sometimes, if you're going to have villains in your film, they should at least, one of them should be driving a monster truck. At least that's apparently what the scriptwriters of Roadhouse assumed. Again, it was 89. People were driving their giant trucks with giant tires. Actually, no, they mostly weren't. I'm not sure why that was in the film. But at any rate, Otis Redding, Pain in My Heart, 60 years old this year. Check it out. And kind of a final one. I'll put this one up because, of course, it's on the old soul wall here. But the only LP to be released, the only live LP to be released by Sam Cooke during his lifetime, and of course I could only be speaking about Sam Cooke at the Copa. Now, this, again, was his only live LP released during his lifetime. Live at Harlem Square was released in 1985. But, you know what? Live at the Copa is good. Little backstory on Live at the Copa. Effectively, the Copa was a place where you could make it with white audiences. Very supper club, very cocktail sort of a place. And a lot of artists, sort of aspired to go there. But you had to white it down. And that kind of is my only issue with Live at the Copa by Sam. I mean, he sounds great. The recording is great. The musicians are great. He had performed there before, and the press had really jumped on him, and he had bombed there, and he'll never play the Copa. This Sam Cooke, he'll never play the Copa. Well, he played it again. He absolutely destroyed, and that was a huge thing for him. This album obviously ended up being released in October. By December, unfortunately, Sam Cooke had been shot and killed. One of the worst things to ever happen in soul music. Certainly the man was an absolute legend, but Live at the Copa would be his last and only live album that would be released during his lifetime. This is, again, an excellent performance, but of course, the Harlem Square LP is where he kind of really lights it up because, again, different audience for a black audience. Oh, way more energy, so much sort of gospel fire coming off of that one. But this album, again, is really worth picking up if you do happen to see a copy. This is actually my copy here. The cover's on the wall. So what am I supposed to do? Wanted to give 5 classics that if you don't have, these albums are 60 years old. You should have them in your collection. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hey, Craig, what's with the suit, bro? What's up with that, man? How does that make any sense? Well, it's actually just a tribute. I just wanted to give a thanks to Rachel's Ghost. And of course, my friend Rachel from Rachel's Ghost, who awarded old Craig Danger the best dressed at the Ghosties in 2023. I actually was a presenter on that particular award show. And it was an honor. It was a bear. Because, of course, I had a gentleman named The Wax interrupting me pretty much the whole time. Although, to be fair, that's kind of what he did every single time I was on the Rachel's Ghost Show. So, yeah, but always nice to be recognized, even if it is for something as shallow as dressing impeccably, which is what the Danger sometimes does. So, at any rate, like, subscribe. Obviously, we know that subscribers avoid all incidents of negativity with law enforcement. They're just good people. Again, thank you for watching to the end. Like, subscribe, comment. In the comments, let me know, what do you have from 1964? What 60-year-old records do you own that you would say, hey, these are must-haves? Obviously, I haven't gotten them all. In fact, this was one of those things where I was like, am I going to be able to do this? Yes, I am, because you know what? Sometimes the Danger only picks up classics, and 64 happens to be one of those times. So again, thank you for tuning in, and I am going to see you on the next one.